Alright guys, what's up and welcome back to the channel as we come to our final domain of the Heartlands here, and this is one of the non-geographical or physical domains in that sense. This is essentially the main one for sources or wizards here, and that is the enigmatic Sword Mage. So no one really knows who or what the Sword Mage is, male, female, human, or who knows, again, what else. So it is essentially listed as alignment neutral. It is actually recommended for play, which is a bit surprising given all these sort of blank holes here, basically, that kind of need to be filled in by player and DM, as part of the campaign. But again, that presents a wonderful blank canvas with some kind of rough guidelines here. So sometimes one of the criticisms of Birthright has been, there's not enough there. Some things aren't as detailed as they should be, but look at the positive side. You get to then fill that in with your story, your own personal story, your role playing, right? So I don't really see those as negatives, honestly. So Sword Mage here, again, question, and then are they from Voss? Are they Voss Guardian? Who knows? Level 10 wizard though, right? And in this setting, that's actually like incredibly powerful, more powerful than maybe in other settings. And that's stuff that we'll cover in a separate series of videos, again, on the mechanics of the game and all that. We got so much more to cover. But Major Bloodline, Vorin, and Lawful Evil, so we know that much at least. And again, a wide network of sources and leylands, so definitely the power player here of the Heartlands as far as wizards go. Now, there's many, of course, in other parts of Annuir that are also fairly strong up there, but again, Heartlands, really nobody comes close to the Sword Mage. There are some others, of course, here and there, but anyway. As you can see, there are quite a few, although only the two there in the middle that are actually up at level 3, but plenty of level 2s and 1s, and a few 0s there. Again, mostly located in Gore, a little bit in Elenia, and then Moriad as well. So really just the 3 domains, but again, there are plenty of other wizards that have essentially not necessarily mastered, but own a lot of territory in some of the other neighboring domains, and or are sort of like the official wizard of the political ruler of those domains. So there's not necessarily that much extra space to expand, at least immediately here. Regency, not too much generated or accumulated, and 0 gold bars in the treasury. So, and as it says here, the mage does need gifts from Elenia or more likely Gore to cast realm spells. So that being said, if you go back and double check our review on Gore, we know that, again, that's not one for players as far as running that domain, but certainly should not be hard to come by, especially if it is needed for Gore, that you can essentially name a price to cast your spells, and that's certainly where you essentially have a patron, a pretty wealthy and pretty powerful patron that will support you there, but still gives you a fair bit of independence, and certainly would be unwise to break that relationship there for any reason, really. As we said when we were reviewing Gore, I mean, the only thing that really keeps Gore in check is the fact that they're surrounded by a certain number of domains. Well, I don't know, it's like 6 or 7 domains that basically will keep Gore in check, more or less, from going on a rampage and really conquering a whole hell of a lot of territory. And even though not directly bordered by Avenel certainly would, I think, still be too much for Gore to handle. But anyway. So, Regent, the formidable mage, has gained such a reputation no one dares test him or her or it. Again, and that's, I think, where you can have a little bit of fun with this. Some of the other later supplements and some of the things online kind of expanded a little bit on the Sword Mage, but not too much. So again, it's still mostly a blank canvas where you can really have some fun with it. And as it says here, this serves Gore fanatically, but acts reasonably in other matters. So again, that's a big part of the relationship there. And then we move on to the other mages of the Heartlands, again, kind of dipping in here in some of the various domains, as we can see, and they're also located in some of the other areas like the south, the eastern marches, the northern marches, and so on and so forth, which we'll all get to in due time. But again, no one really touches the Sword Mage here. And again, with sort of that lack of information on them, certainly starting out, and it'll be something to work out with the DM, of course, you should have access to quite a treasure trove of magical gear and other things, given the nature of what you do here. And ideally, making something or having something related to the name, right? So kind of coming up with a story there. So why is this person or creature or whatever it might be named the Sword Mage? So having some fun there, maybe having something like a mage who's actually got some combat or battle skills as well. So something to consider. But overall, a fun one, and again, just sort of a complete mystery. And if it, depending on the type of campaign being run, certainly would be a very interesting domain to have to interact with the other players with, right? So gore again is not available for players to run, so you kind of have some inbuilt or built-in protection there as far as anybody coming to challenge your sources more or less in that fashion. Now you do have a little bit of, again, some of your sources in LNEA, so you wouldn't want to kind of ruin that relationship there, and you might depending on what the DM has in mind, caution gore from ever attacking that domain. But similarly with Moriad, so I think really the main thing, as we discussed with gore, is looking eastward. There's that civil war in Osorde, which we'll come to when we get to the Eastern Marches here soon. And I think that's an easy one where if there does need to be war, there does need to be expansion. That's an easy avenue where I think there's an expansion for gore, but also potential more sources to pick up for the Sword Mage. Now again, you're going to have some competition here and there depending on which route you go, and some of these mages are not necessarily as formidable as you, although I think there are a couple of power players there. But what you might not be able to handle on your own, certainly gore can kind of steamroll through on the political military side. So that being said, guys, let us know if in your campaigns you've either run the domain and how you've approached it, and how's that worked in with the DM and what their plans were, or just in the course of adventuring, if you've been in and around gore and somehow encountered the Sword Mage, or just encountered them somewhere else. Just let us know your interactions there, guys. Always fun to hear your stories. So hit us up in the comments, guys. Like and subscribe if you haven't already. We're done finally with the Heartlands. As we said, we're going to be moving on next. I believe it's the Northern Marches. So stay tuned for that, and we got plenty more to come for Birthright.